Okay, good morning. Thursday, January 9th, 2025, and starting up the live here to continue to take a look at A Course in Miracles, going over the workbook and also looking at the text today. Let's just take a minute at the top while we're waiting for people to come into the room, come on to the live. The fires are happening out in Los Angeles. It looks like Pacific Palisades, particularly, is being hit pretty hard. And I spent the last 24 years out there in Los Angeles, and I got to tell you, these fires, that's a big deal. That's a big deal, the way Pacific Palisades is getting hit. Also, Altadena, Pasadena, Sylmar. And then again, last night, the Hollywood Hills started up, and I think also there was another fire in Studio City. So obviously we're going to start seeing more of this kind of stuff, more of these kinds of things, these kinds of incidents. What's happening with an instance like this, as we see more and more craziness, more and more extreme events are going to start showing up in consciousness, are going to start showing up on all the screens, on the screens that we hold in our hands, the screens that are in our houses, but also on the screens of our consciousness. These types of events, these types of things that are happening in Los Angeles at the time are going to and continue to and are showing up on the screens of our consciousness as the vibration of the planet moves up. As we move into the fifth dimension, we have to pass through, as we move into the fifth chakra, if you will, the fifth dimension, the chakra or the dimension of truth, right? We're going to start seeing more truth. You have to pass through the fourth chakra or the fourth dimension, which is the dimension of love. So everything has to be forgiven. The hatred, the negativity, all these types of things have to be given up. They have to be decided against. They have to be rejected. Get thee behind me, Satan. Turn the other cheek, look the other way. So we're going to see more and more of these types of events in the world, which is why we're here, which is why we are taking a look at A Course in Miracles and having these kinds of discussions, building these types of communities, because there are some people that are not tuned into this vibration just yet. They're not tuned into the idea that we are seeing a collective transformation in consciousness. And as that collective transformation of consciousness begins to come to the surface, if you've experienced this in an individual sense, you will understand that life becomes challenging. Life becomes chaotic, right? Things begin to shake and shift. And so we're seeing that in a collective sense. And so that's what we're starting to see out in Los Angeles with all these fires. Huge, huge disruption. So thanks for joining today. Thanks for stopping by. If you get a chance, hit the screen, tap the screen a few times. Let's see if we can build up those likes. I would appreciate it. It helps with the algorithm. It helps with the lives. We do this every morning at 11 a.m. Central Time, starting at 11 a.m. Central Time. If you cannot make it at that time, or if you miss it, I also take a download of the live, and I put it on YouTube at SVC 2011. That's Sierra Victor Charlie 2011 is the YouTube account right now. So you can find all this information on the YouTube account also. So lesson 9 today, one workbook lesson per day with Course in Miracles. And lesson 9 today says, I see nothing as it is now. And remember the first 50 lessons of Course in Miracles, as we've said, the idea behind those first 50 lessons is to begin to break up, begin to dissolve, to begin to work an alchemical process in the mind, to loosen up, to expand the mind, the consciousness beyond its normal functioning, beyond the third dimensional conditioning, the way we have been conditioned by the culture, by authority figures, by our parents, teachers, by politicians, by television, all of it. So we're going to be, we're engaging in a process to break up the way I think, the way we perceive the world, the way we currently perceive it. And so lesson 9, I'm saying to myself throughout the day for a few minutes at a time, I see nothing as it is now. And there's an exercise that goes along with that. And it says, this idea obviously follows from the two preceding ones. But while you may be able to accept it intellectually, it is unlikely that it will mean anything to you as yet. However, understanding is not necessary at this point. In fact, the recognition that you do not understand is a prerequisite for undoing your false ideas. So the false ideas are the realm and are the kingdom of the ego mind. And so we are undoing the ego mind. We are undoing the idea of a state of being that is separate from the mind of God. We're going to undo that idea. We're going to undo the grip that idea has on our consciousness. So, undoing false ideas. These exercises are concerned with practice, not with understanding. You do not need to practice what you already understand. It would indeed be circular to aim at understanding and assume that you already have it. It is difficult for the untrained mind to believe that what it seems to picture is not there. So we're beginning to be introduced to the idea in the Course in Miracles that, of course, our thoughts create our reality. What I believe and what I think inside is what I perceive and what I picture outside of myself. And as we've said, that's probably an idea that we have already been introduced to in other spiritual teachings, just other spiritual communities and discussions. We're having that discussion in this time and place, and it is a discussion that is engaged in the Course in Miracles. And Course in Miracles, in my opinion, if you stick with it, if you work with it, if you practice as it says, and if you continue to read the text, I have found that you can get pretty deep with this stuff. The idea that I have created this world around me, the idea that I am the singular consciousness creating everything. I am the singular consciousness. I am perceiving it from here. You are me. I am you. We are one. And from your perspective, you are the one. And so there's one consciousness with an infinite number of perspectives of this reality, and we're starting to approach just the surface of that idea, just the first few layers of that idea in the Course in Miracles, lesson 9 here. It says, let's see, this idea. It is difficult for the untrained mind to believe that what it seems to picture is not there. We were told yesterday that these thoughts in our mind are not really thoughts. Our mind is really blank. So we're in a simulation. The things I see, the trees I see outside the window, the fields, the grass, it's not really there. It's not reality, which, of course, if you read, some of the Enlightenment thinkers, such as Immanuel Kant and Kant, and some of the German idealists, they approach they discuss some of the same ideas. And quantum physics will sort of go over the same ideas. There's nothing really there, strangely. It says this idea can be quite disturbing and may meet with active resistance in any number of forms, yet that does not preclude applying it. No more than that is required for these or any other exercises. Each small step will clear a little bit of the darkness away, and understanding will finally come to lighten every corner of the mind that has been cleared of the debris that darkens it. It says, do this 3 or 4 times during the day, and look about you, apply the idea for the day to whatever you see, remembering the need for indiscriminate application and the essential rule of excluding nothing. For example, I do not see this typewriter as it is now. I do not see this phone as it is now. I do not see this urn this arm as it is now, or this urn as it is now. And it is emphasized again that while complete inclusion should not be attempted, specific exclusion must be avoided. Be sure you are honest with yourself in making this distinction. You may be tempted to obscure it. So pretty simple. We're just applying these workbook lessons in order to, as it just said, clear the debris, clear the darkness from our minds and lighten ourselves. Okay, so that's the process. It goes on for 365 days, 1 lesson per day. Then we also will turn to the text and read 1 section of the text per day. Excuse me. Today is Thursday, January 9th. So we are now in the 9th section of the text, which is chapter 2, section 2, which is called the Atonement as Defense. So a couple ideas are introduced by the Course in Miracles. Of course, there are definitions in the back of the book. There's an entire section called the Glossary of Terms, which you can go to the back of the book. If you don't have the book, all of this information is publicly available online at ACIM.org. That's the Foundation for Inner Peace. That's the publisher of A Course in Miracles. All the information is online for free. So you can go there. You can go to the Glossary of Terms, and the atonement will be defined. And the atonement is the outcome that we're looking for. The atonement is the idea of salvation. It has said earlier, if I'm recalling this correctly, the miracle is the means, the atonement is the purpose, the goal, at one-ment in consciousness with God, with a higher power. So, and remember, the voice that is being used in the Course in Miracles is identified as the voice of Jesus. You can also think of this as the voice of your higher self. It is the I am consciousness. And it says, you can do anything I ask. The voice of Jesus. I've asked you to perform miracles and have made it clear that miracles are natural, corrective, healing, and universal. There is nothing they cannot do, but they cannot be performed in the spirit of doubt or fear. When you are afraid of anything, you are acknowledging its power to hurt you. Remember that where your heart is, there is your treasure also. You believe in what you value. If you are afraid, you are valuing wrongly. Your understanding will then inevitably value wrongly, and by endowing all thoughts with equal power, will inevitably destroy peace. That is why the Bible speaks of the peace of God which passes understanding. This peace is totally incapable of being shaken by error of any kind. It denies the ability of anything not of God to affect you. This is the proper use of denial. It is not used to hide anything, but to correct error. It brings all error into the light, and since error and darkness are the same, it corrects error automatically. So, anything I fear, whenever fear comes up, then a distinction is made, of course, here between fear and love. So there's a choice that I'm going to make as the soul, as the chooser. Will I choose fear or will I choose love? And it tells us that fear takes many forms. Fear might take anger, doubt, worry, depression. Any of these expressions are expressions of fear. By the same token, an expression of love might be love, joy, happiness, peace, as it is talking about here. So I'm looking for a state of being that is peaceful, no matter what. Peaceful, even though my house may have just been burned down by cataclysmic fire. Can I remain peaceful? And let's remember, all these people, let's, send a blessing to these people, to these aspects of ourselves, to the people in the Pacific Palisades, to the people in Los Angeles and other areas of Southern California, Altadena, Pasadena, Sylmar, etc. Their houses have burned down. They are undergoing this experience. Number one, they are aspects of ourselves. They are other aspects of our consciousness. And I may not be there. I may not be in the location. I may not be able to do anything physically, but I can, bless them in consciousness. I can hold them in a loving position. I can hold space for them. And I can also affirm the idea that's being expressed right here in A Course in Miracles, and that it is expressed throughout the text. I can know that they cannot be harmed. They are not being harmed, which, if you don't understand the perspective, may sound like a harsh statement, because of course they are undergoing an experience now, an experience that they have signed up for. Nobody is a victim. So we undergo experiences in this realm, in this third dimension, in order to learn, in order to remember that we are powerful beings, that we are universal beings, spiritual beings with complete control and complete power. What we're waking up from at this point, at this time, is the idea of a lack of power. That's one of the ideas we're waking up from. We're coming to the consciousness of our complete power. If you read Autobiography of a Yogi, Brahmasana Yogananda, about Yogananda. Okay, Brahmasana. I think I said that right. But Yogananda, in any case, he tells stories in the book about masters being able to control the elements. Now, imagine having the consciousness of being able to control the element of fire. Okay. So the idea has to be held in consciousness. Now, I am not there, right? I cannot perform that miracle at this point. However, I have to be aware of the potential, of the ability. If I meditate on that idea, if I consider that idea, and if I believe that others have demonstrated that idea, which I do believe myself personally. In fact, my master teacher, who I travel with around the world and who has instructed me and my brothers and sisters, our group for many years about the Course in Miracles, has in fact demonstrated just that ability on a smaller scale, but okay, I didn't witness it, but the incident was reported to me, and I'm 100% convinced. I understand that it's possible. So, as we think about the people in Los Angeles, Pacific Palisades, Southern California, and people everywhere around the world, it may be comforting or it may be helpful to understand that this is a dream. I am a dreamer of the dream. I'm dreaming a dream in which it appears people can be harmed, in which it appears people can be hurt. So the question I must ask myself, and the question that is being asked in A Course in Miracles, the idea that's being discussed is, the question is that the kind of world I would like to imagine, where people can be harmed, where people can undergo devastating events? No, of course not. The answer is no, of course not. And then the question is, how deeply will I engage in the enterprise? How deeply will I engage in my spiritual awakening in order to come to the place where perhaps I can begin to take control of my circumstances, take control of circumstances around me, and so help relieve the stress and the distress that I witness in the world today. So this section of chapter 2, Atonement as a Defense, it of course is using the contrast between how the ego uses the idea of defense. The ego uses the idea of defense also, just like the Holy Spirit uses the idea of defense. The Holy Spirit uses the atonement as a defense. It says here, the ego uses it at the defense as a psychological defense to prevent enlightenment. So there's actually some sort of mechanism within myself, an idea that I have held and that I hold within myself, which defends against the idea of enlightenment. So the struggle, the contest, and the challenge is within myself. So one last little idea here to share, the fourth paragraph here. It says the atonement is the only defense that cannot be used destructively because it is not a device that you made. The atonement principle was in effect long before the atonement began. The principle was love, and the atonement was an act of love. Acts were not necessary before the separation because belief in time and space did not exist. It was only after the separation that the atonement and the conditions necessary for its fulfillment were planned. Then a defense so splendid was needed that it could not be misused, although it could be refused. Refusal could not, however, turn it into a weapon of attack, which is the inherent characteristic of other defenses. The atonement thus became the only defense that is not a two-edged sword. It can only heal. The defenses of the ego, as it says here in these last two sentences, the defenses of the ego thinks it's protecting itself, but in the act of protecting itself, the ego attacks, and then it covers up. Then there's a cover up. After it attacks, after it defends itself, I was just defending myself, it justifies the attack it that then employs or engages in. So we're being reminded or instructed that defenses used by the ego are a double-edged sword. And then, of course, I think I'm directing it outward, which is the idea of projection. But it's not but just being directed outward, it's being directed inward. And that sword, I think I'm pointing outside of myself. That defense, I think I'm using against someone outside of me. I'm actually employing, I'm against myself. I'm stabbing myself. I'm defending against the idea of my own enlightenment, a double-edged sword. If you know anything about the tarot cards, the sword, of course, is a symbol of the intellect, symbol of thinking and thought. And so there you have the ego and a double-edged sword. And we're being told here that the defense of the atonement, which is a defense of love, which is an expression of love, no matter what's going on, no matter what I'm confronted with, I respond with love. I even accept the idea that the seeming attack coming from outside of me is a call for love. It is an act of love itself, because I realize that my brother attacking me is a call for me to remember that there is no attack. There is only love. Attack is an illusion. So we'll leave it there for today. And thanks for stopping by. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out for a minute. Every day at 11 a.m. Central Time, I will go live, and then I will download this transmission. I will download this live and put it up on a YouTube channel. My suggestion for the YouTube channel at this point is just to go to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the TikTok channel here, Steve OC. Go to YouTube, it's SVC 2011. Go to the YouTube channel, subscribe over there, and then just click on one of the 20 or 30-minute videos. Just click on it randomly. See what comes up. See what idea is you are, through that act, through that engagement, what idea you are presenting to yourself. What idea you are asking yourself to consider through that act of engagement. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. Thanks for stopping by. We'll talk to you tomorrow. We'll see you later. Peace and blessings. Have a great day.